So the Public Safety Committee, Cleveland City Council, will come to order. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Would you please call the roll?
Valencia,
Present.
Jones, Gray, House Jones, Kelly,
Present.
Sly,
Present.
Star, Harsh.
Star, excuse me, go ahead, Councilman.
Present.
Star is excused, he is ill, and Councilman Harsh is appointed as pro tem until the other members arrive from some of their other meetings. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Appreciate that. Director, good to see you, and Dawn at the table. We have the two pieces we want to do. Now we're going to hear from the Citizens Police Commission. But I wanted to say this publicly because I've talked to a number of police officers, firefighters, and EMS technicians who indicated to me how appreciative they were of the work that was done by the Department of Public Service with regard to snow plowing, snow issues related. We all think about, when the weather gets bad, about us being able to get out of our homes, all of us as citizens, to get to work or school or shopping or house of worship, whatever it may be. But so often, people forget that firefighters, police officers, and EMS folks have to drive vehicles to respond to emergencies. And again, I want to just say that publicly, based on what I've heard. And if you would please close the door, Madam Clerk. Thank you. How appreciative they were that public service tried to get on top of things as best as they could in light of the severe snow and then ice that we received. So I needed to say that publicly because I think we have a good director of public service, and if he's given the equipment and the manpower, that he'll be able to do the job that we need to keep these streets clean. So that's very important. So at this point, I'm going to go into the two pieces of legislation before us. Ordinance number 1379-2023 by Council Members Polensek and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services for fiscal year 22 Project Safe Neighborhoods Grant, and authorizing one or more contracts with mental health services for Homeless Persons Incorporated, DBA Frontline Services, and the Near West Side Multi-Service Corporation, DBA May Dugan Center, to implement the grant. It's been approved by the Director of Public Safety, approved by Director of Finance. There's no legal objection. It came to us for the first time. First reading before Cleveland City Council was December 4th, 2023. Director and Dawn.
Councilman, we appreciate you re-raising that. I know that we were here with Dr. Margolius at the last safety committee who addressed and answered several questions.
This is the Homicide Review Commission, the PSN grant,
The
1379.
Sure. 1379-2023, is that correct?
Yes.
Chair? Okay. Ordinance number 1379-2023, if passed by City Council, would authorize Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant in the amount of $19,329.80 from the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services for fiscal year 2022 Project Safe Neighborhoods Grant.
Yes.
The funding will be used to fund the Homicide Review Commission, or HRC. Members of the Division of Police and County Prosecutor's Office will meet monthly to review both open and closed cases. These in-depth case reviews of homicides examine the victims of offenders, associates, witnesses, circumstances, and settings of homicide events. The purpose of this Homicide Review Commission is to solve homicides in a more efficient and effective manner, to gain a better understanding of homicide through strategic problem solving, to develop innovative and effective responses and prevention strategies that result in a reduction of homicides, and to help better focus available prevention and intervention resources. For some 2023 statistics include 13 cases were reviewed by the HRC. 2023 ended with a solve rate of 75%. Number of homicides dropped by 1% from 2022 to 2023. The grant budget is broken down as follows. For personnel, $3,797.90 for overtime of detectives working on the HRC, $13,000 in contracts for witness relocation services, $1,800 for equipment, $731.90 for office supplies, for a total of $19,329.80. This is the fourth year we've received this grant. There's no local match required. The grant period is from October 1, 2023 to September 31st, 2024.
Okay. Dawn, do you have any comment?
To the chair, yes, this is a grant that we've received for a couple of years. The project seems to be very successful, and I know we want to continue operating it and continue assisting the victims of crime and the witnesses of crime as well, and continue to reduce the rate of homicides and to continue to increase the solve rate of homicides.
Okay. So the committee is comprised of members of CPD and what, the Cuyahoga Prosecutor's Office? Who comprises the committee?
Chair, there are members from the Division of Police. Other jurisdictions
Okay.
are invited if necessary. The U.S. Attorney's Office, federal task force agents, the County Prosecutor's Office, sheriffs, they come together and they share information, and there are times where this information also uncovers connections between investigations that are ongoing, so it's a valuable tool.
Okay. Do we know how often they meet?
They meet monthly.
Monthly. Okay. Okay. Members of the committee, questions? Members of the committee? Anyone having a question at all? Okay. This is what, you said the fourth year?
Fourth year.
Fourth year. Without objections, ordinance number 1379-2023 is approved as read, and please sign it up. Ordinance number 1380-2023 by council members Polensek and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant from the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services for fiscal year 23 Recovery Ohio LE program to provide funding for the operation of the Cartel Gang Narcotics Laundering Task Force. It was first read, became City Council December 4th, 2023, was assigned to the various departments and divisions. Approved by Director of Public Safety, approved by Director of Finance. There is no legal objection. Director, and you introduce your team.
Thank you, Chair. Lieutenant Kincaid, you want to introduce yourself?
Lieutenant Kevin Kincaid, I'm the co-commander of the Cartel Gang Narcotics and Laundering Task Force.
Okay.
And Darren Hartsong to my right is still at the table, Chair.
Okay.
So, ordinance number 1380-2023, if passed by council, would authorize the Director of Public Safety to apply for and accept a grant in the amount of $80,049.96 from the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services for fiscal year 23 Recovery Ohio Law Enforcement Grant. This legislation will provide funding for the operation of the Signal Task Force, or also known as the Cartel Gang Narcotics Laundering Task Force. The goal of the Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services Recovery Ohio Law Enforcement Grant is to provide funding to law enforcement agencies for operating multi-agency task forces. The City of Cleveland will be reimbursed for costs associated with the operating the Division of Police's Signal Task Force, formerly known as the Northern Ohio Law Enforcement Task Force. Signal is a multi-agency drug task force that brings together state, federal, and local agents and investigators to ensure the most sophisticated investigation and prosecution resources are directed against organized drug trafficking groups. There will be a special focus on preventing overdose deaths. Signal will be partnering with the Cleveland Division of Police Heroin-Involved Death Investigation Team, or HIDA, to conduct investigations and prosecutions of drug traffickers responsible for selling fatal overdoses of narcotics to victims. Signal will also partner with the Ohio Drug Addiction and Mental Health Services, or ADAMS Board of Cuyahoga County, Project Dawn, and Metro Health. The Signal Task Force will receive a supply of fentanyl test strips along with recovery treatment literature from the ADAMS Board and a supply of Narcan safe use kits from Project Dawn and Metro Health. The Signal Task Force will be sharing this supply with the HIDA team. These testing strips give users the ability to easily and quickly test their narcotics to determine if the product contains fentanyl. The users will then know that what they may have thought to be crack cocaine actually contains lethal fentanyl. The Project Dawn safe use kits contain Narcan that could prevent overdose deaths from occurring. The expenses to be reimbursed include the following. For personnel, $47,250 for police overtime, $5,000 for travel related to cases and training, $3,000 for Narcan safe use kits, $500 for office supplies, $4,299.96 for vehicle maintenance, sale data plan, and confidential funds in the amount of $20,000. There's also buy money or surveillance costs for a total of $80,049.96. The grant period from October 1, 2023 to September 30th, 2024. There is no local match. And just some data. It's good if I go through these.
Yeah.
Is this here? Okay. So these will be included in the end-of-year report that is going to be coming to council shortly.
Yes.
But the end-of-year estimates are as follows: 107 search warrants, 102 seized firearms to include pistols, rifles, and shotguns, cocaine seized in the amount of 33.66 pounds, fentanyl heroin powder seized 76.66 pounds, 10,341 fentanyl pills, 3,531 pounds of marijuana, 230.3 pounds of methamphetamine, and drug trafficking currency seized in the amount of $2,658,519. The Signal Task Force is a critical partnership to combating organized drug trafficking intended to harm this city.
Okay. Whoever can answer, Director, into the, I would refer to you as the commander of the unit. What would be your exact title?
Yes, sir. The Signal Task Force is co-commanded by myself and a supervisory special agent from the FBI.
Okay, okay. And where do you work out of?
The Cleveland Strike Force building, sir.
Okay. So I'm trying to get a better understanding. Obviously, we're all aware, I'm looking at the issue specifically with regard to fentanyl. Do you have any indication what the death rate was in the city of Cleveland in 2023 pertaining to fentanyl overdose?
Yes, sir. I could tell you that our heroin-involved death investigation team, which we partner with on this particular grant, responded to 321 overdose death scenes in the city of Cleveland in 2023.
So when you say heroin, you're saying heroin, I'm saying fentanyl. Tell me what's the difference?
Sir, the heroin and fentanyl are essentially the same word nowadays.
Okay.
The heroin-involved death investigation team was named back when it was heroin.
Okay.
Very rare to actually recover large amounts of powdered heroin, pure heroin. We have seen tar heroin, but not in the amounts that we're seeing fentanyl. The problem with fentanyl is that we're seeing it in all of the other narcotics.
Okay. So for 321 fentanyl deaths, correct? In the city?
Sir, approximately 300, the team responded to 321 overdose death
Oh, okay.
scenes. That means that the original responding officers believed it to be an overdose death. However, that it's always pending the medical examiner's
Yes.
determination.
Okay.
There's also cocaine overdoses. It's not, but
Yeah.
the vast majority
Right.
are fentanyl overdoses.
I got you. So is that up or down from 2022?
That is down from 2022. 2022, our team responded to approximately 345 overdose death scenes.
Okay. And then 2020 or 2021?
2021, it is down. I don't have that
Okay.
exact number in
Okay.
front of me, but 2020 was a large increase for us. I'd have to pull that number. I don't have it with
Okay.
me.
I'm trying to understand, and on behalf of my colleagues and the people who are watching this at home, is the problem getting bigger, or is it dropping off, or are we able to contain it better? Are we getting more help out of our federal partners? Because all of us are watching, unfortunately, daily with the migration across the southern border, and I'm watching border officials and law enforcement officials in Texas and elsewhere talking about the amount of drugs that are coming across the border, pouring into the country. So I'm just trying to get a better understanding. Are we able to more effectively deal with it, or we're getting more help out of our federal partners, our state partners? Could you elaborate?
Through the chair to the council, our federal and state partners are a huge help combating this issue, especially as part of the Signal Task Force, with the FBI taking a huge role. It's led by Cleveland Police and the FBI.
Right.
We have approximately 19 different agencies, 40 agents and task force officers. Everybody brings a unique specialty from their agency to the task force, including the Border Patrol, Coast Guard. We have resources that are amazing that really help us.
Okay.
To answer your question about the problem, I believe everybody understands this is not a problem that we can arrest our way out of.
That's exactly.
And that's exactly what this grant gears towards.
Yeah.
We like to have a treatment component where we're able to offer people the fentanyl test strips so that they can test their narcotics, and the Narcan kits to families of people that are suffering from addiction that could potentially save lives.
Yeah. Okay. It's really heart-wrenching. I mean, I think every member of the body has dealt with, quote, heroin, fentanyl, whatever you name it, deaths in our communities, and it's one thing to lose the individual, but then we also see the domino effect on a family. Some cases, breadwinners have passed. Some cases, children have passed, and devastating to a family. I mean, we've seen it all, and I dealt with where a boyfriend and a girlfriend both OD'd, and no one knew they were dead until a couple weeks later. So I don't have to tell you what that scene was like in the house. It's just, to me, from my time here, I often think of my dear friend George Forbes would sit at this very spot, at this very table, and he would talk to the administration at the time. He would complain about the reefer boys on the corner, and would ask the administration at the time, the chief at the time, get the reefer boys off the corner. Sometimes I long for those days in light of what I've been dealing with. I mean, when I think about what I'm dealing with today, we thought we had a problem then. We didn't know what a problem was then.
Yes, sir.
40 years ago in this city. So I'm aware, very much aware of what we've all experienced in our neighborhoods, and I appreciate everybody that's engaged in this process, because it is, again, there's not only the criminal act of people who are coming into our city. So just on that point, Director alluded to it. How many arrests were made in this? Do we know?
Through the chair to the council, we had approximately 50 arrests and indictments throughout last year.
Are those local, or are they folks from out of state?
Both, sir. The task force focuses on investigating the entire organization.
Okay.
They're long and complex investigations.
Okay. So if we're to look at the city collectively, what district do we have the most severe problem in?
Through the chair to the council, the opioid problem is most heavily affected in the 2nd district as far as overdoses, as well as the Slavic Village area.
So explain to the folks who are the 2nd district, give a description what the 2nd district is, because if you're living on the east side, you don't know what that is.
Through the chair to the council, the 2nd district would be the West 25th, Clark, Fulton, essentially from the river to West 85th Street.
Okay. So that portion of the west side right there.
Yes, sir.
And then you indicated Slavic Village as well.
Yes, sir.
It's interesting. Okay. Okay, members of the committee, questions? Anyone having any questions? Councilman Jones.
Mr. Chairman, if we could go back to refer to the presentation, not where it has the memo, where it says the purpose of the grant, and we come down to the the expenses to be reimbursed.
Yes.
When we talk about the receiving of the grant, and there's this breakdown of personnel cost, is this just for Cleveland police officers only? This breakdown and how the grant will be spent, $47,250 for police officers overtime and $5,000 for travel related to case training and $3,000 Narcan safe use kits. Is this an amount that's going to be shared with partners?
Whoever can answer that.
Through the chair to the council, this particular grant is really focused on the Cleveland officers involved in
Okay.
the task force and our heroin-involved death investigation team. It's an opportunity to work with them to help them further their investigations.
Now, when it comes to like fentanyl, just so that I can get kind of educated on this, because I'm not, I sort of kind of know, but not sure. With fentanyl and heroin, is that a narcotic that's mostly used by what ethnic group?
You have any, can you answer that?
Through the chair to the council, I can tell you in my experience that all ethnic groups are using fentanyl and heroin.
So it's equally balanced, is what you're saying?
Through the chair to the council, yes, I believe there has been an increase in the past few years of overdoses in the African-American community based on the data, but I don't have that in front of me, but I do recall reading that.
And so the biggest issue of overdoses right now is between the area that Mr. Chairman talked about in terms of the 2nd district, so we can have a ideal. So in the 4th district, is there any do you see an increase in fentanyl and heroin usage in the 4th district?
Through the chair to the council, yes, Slavic Village area is part of the 4th district, or part of Slavic Village, and the overdoses are citywide. Our officers are responding to scenes throughout the entire city, but if you're asking where the highest hot zones would be, that's where I would say that the 2nd district and Slavic Village, but the entire city is affected.
And so is this a special unit created to deal with this issue? Would this be considered the narcotic unit?
Through the chair of the council, the HIDE team, which is heroin-involved death investigation team, is part of the narcotics unit. They were specifically created, I believe, in 2015 or 16 to focus on responding to overdose scenes. They investigate overdoses as if it's a homicide scene with the #1 goal of tracing back who distributed that lethal dose to the victim that died from the overdose.
And how big is the team?
Through the chair of the council, there's approximately 6 investigators on that team right now.
And that handles everything in the entire city of Cleveland?
Through the chair of the council, that's correct.
Okay. Does that also handle drug houses that may be having this or selling the fentanyl?
Through the chair of the council, the HIDE team does not focus on, I used to run the 5th District Vice Unit, so we would get complaints from council or things like that. So our vice units handle those, like district drug houses or things like that. The HIDE team, they are extremely swamped with the massive amounts of deaths that they're investigating. So if their investigation leads to a dealer, then absolutely they'll take investigative measures to serve a search warrant or further the investigation. And if that happens to be at a house that may have generated complaint, they will do search warrants if their investigation leads there. But they do not follow up on drug complaints.
Okay, so someone, say, ABC, unfortunately has an overdose on heroin. Your team goes in, does the investigation, and you're trying to find out where they bought or purchased the heroin or fentanyl from?
Through the chair of the council, absolutely. Their #1 goal is to identify the source of supply, who sold the dose that caused the death, and then where the Signal Task Force supports the HIDE team is to then try to find out, well, who is supplying that supplier, and then who supplied that. And then we specialize in tracking that all the way back to Mexico if we have to.
And then that's a team of other agencies jumping in to get involved in that, at that point. I'm just trying to find out how it works.
Through the chair of the council, that is correct. That is the Signal Task Force is composed of approximately 40 investigators from 19 different agencies, with the Cleveland Division of Police and the FBI being the lead agencies on the task force.
Okay. And so then we facilitate on our end with the 5 officers that work to get leads. Once we get those leads, then those leads go to the team to further digest it and break it down and investigate.
Through the chair to the council, yes, the Heidi team, the 6 investigators on the Heidi team will handle the death investigation, and then we have additional 6 Cleveland personnel on the Signal Task Force that will then assist and if needed, take over that case to, if we can identify the organization, the actual drug trafficking network that is responsible for shipping that narcotics into the city of Cleveland or into our region.
Do you have like a percentage on results? You know, you talked about 300 and some deaths, and that you're swamped. And so when you get to a point where you delegated it, you know, it sounds like there's an additional 5 that actually does it, and then an additional 6 that come in to help. That's in the city of Cleveland in terms of a police force. Give me a second. Sorry about that. Please excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I've turned my phone off. So the question I would have, Mr. Chairman, to the distinguished gentleman is once that has happened, it goes to the task force and then you make the arrest. So you're saying that you had how many arrests? I think it was 50 some arrests I think I heard. Was that for just 1 year or that's over a space and time?
Through the chair of the council, that was for 2023.
Okay.
The task force arrests would not be connected to the Heidi team's indictments or arrests. Their cases are extremely, without getting into any tradecraft or details, their cases are extremely hard. It is extremely hard to prove a manslaughter case on a drug dealer that sold a fatal dose of narcotics to someone, but they are very good at it. But there's a lot of evidentiary and legal processes involved that make it very difficult. However, that's why we can also focus on, well, maybe we can't pin that manslaughter on them, but you're still distributing narcotics in our city, and we're going to come at you a different way, and we were going to get arrested and search warrant, whatever we need to do to solve that problem.
And I have more questions, but I have them off to the side because there may be too much minutia for the table. But I would like to ask, in the core team that you have, the 5, do you guys make any arrest?
Through the chair to the council, my team is the Signal Task Force, and yes, we make a lot of arrests. And the Heidi team is the death investigators, and they do make arrests as well.
Okay, so how many arrests have your team made?
The Signal Task Force had approximately 50 arrests.
2023?
Yes.
And those are the people that were selling drugs, got busted for selling drugs, and people passed or died. Is that correct?
Negative. Through the chair to the council, no, those are based off of task force investigations. However, those investigations, a couple of those were sparked from the Heidi team responding to an overdose that
Okay.
then led to identifying the network involved in distributing. So the task force is the big picture investigative team trying to take down that work to take down the networks. The Heidi team focused specifically on the local, the death scene and trying to prosecute the dealer for selling the dose of narcotics.
Okay. So looking at this, and I guess going back to the chairman, because he's trying to figure it out, and I'm trying to, how effective are we right now with, would be the issue, when we talk about all of these agencies helping us out in our neighborhoods. For Mr. Polensky and myself, we're not seeing the change on the streets. So for me, it's trying to find out who's doing what, who's on first base, who's on second base, who's on third base. Because somehow there's these loopholes out there, and we're having a time of it out in the street. And it's in such a way where I have never seen it so bad as I'm seeing it right now, even on just some of the basic things. So when we talk about that, I'm trying to gauge on this end here, especially when we talk about Southeast Side and drugs and drug distribution and drug dealers and all sorts of things that are happening. You know, when you break that 50 arrest down, where are these people being arrested at? What area geographically are we talking about?
Through the chair to the council, we've had people arrested in California, Arizona, many places throughout Las Vegas, all connected to distributing narcotics, shipping and distributing narcotics into the city of Cleveland. As far as our investigations, local investigations, the local drug trafficking organizations, those are throughout the city as well. I believe we serve search warrants in every single district in the entire city of Cleveland throughout 2023.
If I may, just to add, sir, just a point of clarity is that, you know, and please always correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have law enforcement agencies that operate to interrupt the suppliers.
Well, good morning, Director. How are you?
Good morning,
Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Councilman. We have law enforcement agencies who work in collaboration to interrupt suppliers and providers, right? Then, and as Lieutenant Kincaid stated, it can go all the way back to Mexico, out of state. There's different ways that drugs flow into the city. So you have the suppliers and the providers, then you also have the dealer, right? That's the street level, what the local law enforcement tends to handle. Then you have the users who you know, we work to interrupt the supply to make it less available to users, and then you have the victims who are the folks who die from the overdoses, and that's what the HIDA team steps in. Now, Lieutenant Kincaid mentioned, Councilman through the chair, is that we have seen a reduction over 2020, and that it'll be in the annual report because we do provide that history. But it's, as we know, you take a dealer off the street, two are fighting over to take over that block. So as you are trying to get stuff off, there's always somebody who is trying to continue, because there's a monetary interest into it. There are other factors besides law enforcement that have to be in play to make the impact where it's absolutely noticeable. And that's, education, mental health, addiction treatments, the work that we do with Metro, with the Narcan. This is not just we're not going to arrest our way out of it. This is not just a law enforcement approach. To see that type of visible change, you have to see it from the many facets in the way that we deal with negative human vices, conduct, but also in the way that we fund our criminal justice system. The amount of dollars that goes towards corrections dwarfs the amount that goes towards mental health. It dwarfs the amounts that goes towards addiction. So this is not an answer. This is one component in combating what we see devastating families in our city and abroad.
Thank you.
No, Mr.
Councilman?
Chairman, to the director, I support, as you know, any grants that we can get into the city of Cleveland that helps us to deal with the issues that we have. So I'm Mr. Chairman, to the director, I certainly support this. I'm trying to find a measurement of how effective, because we do have a number of grants that do come into the city of Cleveland, as you're aware of, and we have a great grant writer who's always, it appears to be just plugging away, always looking to get us the resources we need. So I've always appreciated the work that Mrs. Hartsong does for us in the city of Cleveland. But what I'm trying to get to is because it's a very complex situation, because we're not just talking about this group here. We're talking about this group affiliated with another group, and which is affiliated with another group. So it gets kind of complicated, and it's trying to understand how it works, right? And I guess the question would be, this is just a supplement amount. to what the work that you already do. So what I would like to kind of get a handle of understanding, Mr. Chairman, to the director is how much does that cost? And how do we evaluate its effectiveness? And how efficient are they? And maybe they're efficient and effective with what they do, but it seems like we have a number of different groups. So understanding which group I can tap into to help me deal with my actual issues would be very helpful, Mr. Chairman, to the director.
If you could respond briefly to the council, because his time is up,
Just-
and we have other members, and we do have the Citizens Police Commission here, so we want to deal with that as well.
Yes, sir.
Respond.
Through the chair to the council, I would recommend if you have complaints from constituents about regular drug sales or activity from a location within your ward, that you contact the supervisor or the district commander or the vice unit. That would be their specialty, and I know the 4th District Vice Unit is an outstanding vice unit. They do great work and great investigations. If you have information about a criminal network, an organized criminal network, then you could call me.
Well, I need your number because I've done all the above that you've asked in my district, and I'm still having an issue. And here's, Mr. Chairman, the problem. This person has driver's license plates, has video, has went as far as putting cameras on poles to capture the correct videos, can tell you all the names. I mean, this person, you might as well call her a superstar. She's gathered all the necessary information, and we have did exactly what you're saying. We reported the issue in. I've had her, or the person rather, talk to our people, and I'm still getting calls where she hasn't been handled.
Okay.
So if that's the case, Mr. Chairman, I'll get your number. I'll give you that person. You can look into it and figure out, what's what, Mr. Chairman.
And thank you, Councilman. If you would supply that to all members, your contact, your email information, your phone number, so we can make direct
I'll give you my
inquiries
card right
to
now,
you.
so don't
Okay?
leave, please.
Through the chair to the council, no problem.
Thank you very much. Other members, questions? Other members of the committee? Without objection, ordinance number 1380-2023 is approved as read. And I would only ask is this. We all know the issue. It's just not here. We're all dealing with the issue of manpower. But if there are other, which council cannot control, we can fund it, but we can't hire. But if there's issues of like technology and other things that we need to be aware of, then if someone would indicate that as well. If there's something lacking that you think you folks need in additional to having more people, physical people in the street working it, we'd like to know that as well. Because again, we want to approach this, and let's be honest, we know the drug problem in the city is a people problem. That's just the reality. I mean, I don't understand why there's this desire for drugs and narcotics. I could never figure it out. When I was going, as a kid, when I was going to Tri-C down here, then it was called Scoville Avenue, now it's Cuyahoga Community College, and when I would break for class, and I would watch these kids, mostly suburban Caucasian kids, walking across the street into the projects to buy drugs. I could never figure it out. What was the attraction? What was and all they were doing, they were destroying themselves, but they were also aiding and abetting crime within the projects, where they didn't live, of course. They would never live in the projects. But they were there to aid and abet the drug business. And I would watch them walk across the street as I would sit there in the summertime at breaks in class, and I could just never figure out what's the draw. You just got to get high. You can't get high by, taking a walk, getting involved, getting in sports, going to a house of worship. You got to, shoot yourself full of God knows what, you know? But that's the problem we're dealing with, this people problem. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have one thing
Yeah.
to say before we
Yeah.
close out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and also just want to say to the Director, I'm sorry I was tardy.
Lieutenant Kincaid.
Lieutenant, yeah. I think this is a great topic, and what's going on in our communities dealing with the drug trafficking. We know that is, I have a high area, Buckeye across Kinsmer. We're dealing with some decreasing the activity on Buckeye Road. I know Mayor Bibb has engaged me and some of the constituents having meetings in that area to have a conversation to at least see how we can decrease or have more officers on the scene, because in that particular area around 118th and Buckeye, where the Music Man is, that's the high area of what we're talking about today. And just by you saying, Lieutenant, the 4th District has a very great vice unit, and they do, because I emailed Commander Brown quite a bit, and he set up crews of his units to go out to look at various things when I send them an email. But this is a great hot topic of what we're dealing with right now, and by Mayor Bibb stepping in and asking me to facilitate the meetings in Ward 4 around that area, talking about how we're going to decrease the activity. We are not going to ever get rid of that. We already know that. But at least to see what activity is going over there and who's dealing with it. And per se, just to invite you, you know, tonight is a safety meeting at the Convent Church on 119th and Buckeye with Mr. Paris. I know their main topic is building and housing, but maybe Director, work with Mr. Paris to have maybe somebody from his team to go to the safety meetings. They every 4th Wednesday at the Comrades Church on 119th and Kinsmer. You know, and since this is a high volume situation that we're all dealing with, the presence of someone with the expertise of this this conversation that you just had with Councilman Joe Jones, that's detailed of the questions that the constituents are asking. I definitely can't answer it because I don't see the extra activity, but we see the activity of the human beings that's out there, but we don't actually see the transition of what's going on per se. Because as you just said, Director, they good at what they do per se. But however, I think bringing your unit to the safety meetings at the church every fourth Wednesday, and Mr. Paris is ahead of that. He scheduled different departments in once a month to come in to speak at the safety meetings, because Commander Brown be there, and if he can't, he send his next person in charge. And also, I would like to set up someone to come to my community meeting, even to have a table to come to, you know, to talk about what is going around in the Buckeye area. So I think this is a
So
great topic, and I will
you've
support
heard
this.
the request. I would hope you
yes, thank
coordinate that with the council lady.
Sure. Chair, if I may, we have, you know, high demand for those. Be happy to attend. We'll touch base, Councilwoman, if we can get the, and I don't want to do it here, but give me
Yes.
contact information.
Okay.
We'll make sure we attend.
Thank you. So the legislation's been approved as read. Please sign it up. Thank you, Director,
Thank you, Chair.
and members of your team that are here. And then I'm going to,
Do you have a card? Thank you. How do I get to join your task force?
I'll get some information to get to you ahead of time. Councilman,
okay. Okay, thank you all. And now we will hear from and invite to the table the Community Police Commission. And I thank them for their patience, and I appreciate their attendance as well. Come on up. You can all come to the table if you want. We have enough seats here, I hope. I think we do. the members who would like to take a seat, come on up. To the viewing public, as many know, Issue 24 was on the ballot, which created the Community Police Commission. It was passed, and as a result, it created Charter Section 115 of the city charter. There are 13 members of the Police Commission that were appointed, 3 by Cleveland City Council and 10 appointed by the mayor. And I will stop at that point, and I would ask the chairperson to introduce herself, and then all the members that are present here as well.
So I'm Jan Ridgway, and I am one of the co-chairs until tonight. We elect new co-chairs tonight.
Okay. Okay.
Hello, my name is Adriana Rodriguez, and I'm one of the co-chairs as well.
Hello, my name is John Adams. I am the chair of the Budget and Grants Committee and the Training Committee and a member of the Police Accountability Committee.
Chair, I am Pete Van Leer. I am the chair of the Policy Committee and a member of the Rules Committee and the Budget and Grants Committee.
I am Jason Goodrick, the interim executive director of the CPC.
Hi, everybody. I'm Martin Belat. I am the newly hired attorney through the law department working with the CPC.
So you're new.
I'm new. I'm new. I'm with the law department, kind of split time between the law department and the CPC. Yes, very new, as of Monday.
As of today, with us.
As of today with them, as of Monday. Yeah, and I was with the Department of Community Development before that. So if you know my face from working with the director, Alyssa Hernandez, and Assistant Director, McKeel Wackers, Joy Anderson. So happy to be with the CPC team.
We're glad to have you.
Okay. So who would like to tell us about the, lead off and tell us about the work of the commission, and maybe at some point, because again, it's all about, I totally believe in transparency at this table and within the council. And maybe somebody can address the issue, the ongoing issue of the perception that there is an adversarial environment within the commission. I've had individuals call me who have attended the meetings. I've had 2 of your members come to see me privately who do not want their name divulged to express their concerns about the conflict, the drama that has taken place within the police commission. And now there seems to be increased drama directed against the mayor's office, the mayor. So I'm just trying to understand what's happening, because I'm one of these individuals, and I've said this publicly. I didn't vote for issue 24, but it passed, and I'm old school, and I believe that the voters have decided. So how do we make this work? How do we make it work without seeing this adversarial relationship between members, and now it seems to be a rift between the commission and the mayor's office, and so we're trying to get some better understanding as to the role of the commission in relationship to the mayor, the safety director, the chief. There seems to be some positions or attitude that somehow the commission can, in essence, tell the mayor, the safety director, and the chief what to do, can basically be in charge of the division of police. I saw the issue with regard to the general police orders, the GPOs, and I asked myself, how can the commission, and that's part of the thing I'd like to hear today, how can the commission dictate to the CPD, the safety director, the chief, when no one on the commission, to my knowledge, unless you can correct me, has even, has been OPATA trained. Has been OPATA trained. Nobody on the commission, unless, please educate me, because maybe there might be one on the commission that was a former police officer. Is that correct? One?
Correct.
Yeah, but how can the commission members dictate to the chief, to the mayor, the safety director, the chief, as it pertains to the operation of the Cleveland Police Department? I don't know if that was, well, I'm going to stop right there. Because first of all, I appreciate all you taking the time to come here today in light of this crappy weather that we all have to deal with today, believe me. And I know that's why some people aren't here, and so even members of the body. So I'll start with the chairperson, who I've had seems a good working relationship with, who's very cordial, and I think who's trying to herd cats at times. But it's difficult. So I'll start with the chairperson.
Okay.
And please pull the mic up in front of you, and you can speak right into it.
So-
And again, I hope you know everybody at this table.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So to the chair and also to the members of the committee.
Yes.
I would gently say that the public's perceptions about this commission are not wrong. Their perceptions are not wrong. We have had a very toxic year, and I'm very open about that. As someone who has served on close to 20 boards, commissions, and strategic committees in over 45 to 50 years, this is like nothing I've ever seen before. And I think in some ways, I read an article that Signal did, I think yesterday or day before, where they talked about the charter. And I read where they talked about issue 24. But we, as a commission, we're basically working under two different sets of guidelines or directions. You have the consent decree under the federal judge.
Yes.
And then you have the statutes under the city of Cleveland, and they don't always align. And we have never, ever sat down and say where the priorities should be. Additionally, commissioners have been selected for this commission. I don't believe that many have had a deep connection to the community, that they really know what the community needs or what the community wants. I don't know how many have stayed connected since being on this commission in terms of attending meetings on a regular basis outside of the commission. I think that we are one of the most educated, experienced in terms of career qualifications of a commission that I have ever been on. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we are the best commission. We all are independent thinkers. Everybody has his or her own opinion. And we have never learned how to bring those ideas or concepts together in a way that works for the benefit of the city of Cleveland. I don't know how we do that. I think that in some instances, the statutes need to be amended. I think in some instances, there needs to be different commissioners. That's just my opinion
When you
about
say
it.
the statute, you mean the actual ballot language that was passed?
The 115.
Yes,
Yes, 115.
but I think we'd have to go back to the voters on that.
Well, we have been exploring that, and you probably know more about this politically than I do, but it's my understanding that there are some things that must go back to the ballot, and
Yes.
there are others,
Okay.
you know, under the Ohio
Revised code.
code
Yes.
that can be done locally. I'm not sure which is which at this point.
Okay.
But I will say this, that despite all of this contention that has happened at the table for 12 months, it started last year in January, and we are still at it in January of this year. So despite this, there have been those people on this commission who have worked very hard to advance the work of this commission. So despite all of this, we have elected co-chairs, we have established bylaws and rules of operations. We have a rep that's appointed to the Mental Health Board. We have established an 18-month framework for our work in 2024 and part of 2025 that was done by all of our committees.
Yes.
Our police committees, several of them have work groups already where the public is engaged and giving us input. We have awarded $1,001,080 in grants to public nonprofits or those who have fiscal agents who will work with them. We attended a week of NACO. We have met with federal monitors 4 or 5 months during last year. For the very first time, this commission has spoke before the federal judge. Our voices, not represented by anybody else, but our voices, where we talked as much about what our challenges are as what our successes have been. We have been before you. We went before you twice last year in 2023. We have had 5 citywide conversations on police trauma and its effect on the community. It started out on the Black community, and we expanded that to look at the full community.
Go ahead.
We are working with the University of Akron to produce a report, the results of those conversations that we hope to publish and make available nationwide. We have, thanks to Commissioner John Adams, he and his committee had a very successful working with the police department, a Saturday training on use of force. And we have interviewed and selected our shared attorney, the first for this commission. And we interviewed at least 10 candidates. It may have been more, over the course of 2 openings. So this commission, despite the contention, we have made progress. But in my mind, it's foundational work. It's not the work necessarily that addresses the concerns that were identified in issue 24. We just got our very first case, to look at for a possible appeal, but that's the first one. We just met this week with the Police Review Board and OPS to try to align our policies and practices with theirs.
Yes.
Because we don't control, they are an independent agency,
Right.
just like we are an independent agency. We don't control that agency. So in order for us to be able to get the case files that we need to do our work, we had to come together, discuss it, and see what of our own rules and maybe their rules can be aligned, to be able for us to be as effective as they are in their work. So those are the things that I can identify. I will not bite my tongue in saying that it is not a toxic group. I don't know how we move forward. We had suggested within a couple of months into this commission to bring on an outside consultant in conflict management to help us do that. We never moved forward on that. We have suggested bringing in a parliamentarian. We never moved forward on that. So we're thankful that our new attorney is well-versed in parliamentary procedure and will be able to give us some guidance in that direction as well. But those are the things that I would like to say. I would like to say that despite the contention, 12 months of contention on all sides, whether it was with the public, whether it was with other commissioners, whether it was with staff, whether it was with the city, there has been nothing but contention at every single meeting we have had. So I want to also allow my co-chair
Yes.
to add.
And I appreciate that. And identify yourself again for the viewing public.
Hi, my name is Adriana Rodriguez, and I'm one of the co-chairs. I believe that whenever there is a new process, there is going to be natural conflict and tension because we're learning our different roles as a city, as well as a commission. I think there are a variety of different barriers that we are learning to work with, identify, and possibly alleviate. just for the sake, I'm not going to go into every single one. I think as a commission that we have growing pains. I think some of that is normal, right? And due to, so the commission has been since the consent decree too. So there's certain things that may be transpiring from that as well. But I think for anybody, whether you voted for issue 24 or you didn't, I hope that this year is not used as an example to get rid of the commission. I think everyone has their overall expertise that they bring to it. We are learning, just like with any job, right? Usually that year that is growing and you're developing, right? I would say there's things that I'm not, I wish could have been different. I think that's part of this. There is no blueprint. No other nation has this commission like we. So we are learning as we go. Of course, we're going to make mistakes, but I feel that we can revamp from that through a variety of ways. Like she mentioned, a consultant. I believe that, especially one that is independent, one that doesn't have any stakes, but just want the best for the commission.
Okay. I appreciate your comments. So, explain to us a little bit about your interaction with the federal monitor. Who would like to comment on that? Do you meet with them on a regular basis, or when they come into town? I'm trying to understand how that works.
We didn't meet with them consistently during 2023. I think we may have had 4 meetings with them all together.
Okay.
As we were approaching the status meeting on the consent decree, we didn't meet with them. So I don't think we met with them in September, except we did meet with them virtually, I think, in September. Didn't meet with them in October, November, nor December. And basically, they just wanted to know how the commission was going. They were also watching the live streams.
Yes.
So occasionally they would ask questions based on what they had seen online.
Yes.
They did share with us at one point 2 or 3 of the issues that were foremost that we should deal with as far as the consent decree. One was the use of force.
Yes.
One was search and seizure. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
So those were the 3 issues that they shared that we should work to resolve.
Because I'm sure they didn't hear that. That was bias.
Bias policing.
Bias
right.
policing, okay. Okay.
So those were the 3 areas that they shared with us at one meeting.
Okay.
Basically, it was listening, asking questions about just the tenor of our sessions.
Yes.
And how they could help in some way.
Okay.
Never saying do or don't,
Yes.
but making suggestions or recommendations.
Thank
and they
you.
met with just the 2 co-chairs at those meetings.
They're coming before us in April. I'm going to make sure all my colleagues are aware of that date well in advance. We wanted to coordinate it in a way where when they come in to meet with Judge Oliver, that they'll meet with us, because I don't have to tell you, they charge $7.50 an hour. So we didn't want to have to bring them in on another special day, because that meter is running. And we have spent a substantial amount of money already. So we're trying to coordinate things so when they're in town, we can talk with them, and then vice versa. So maybe that's something you might want to consider as well, or be in attendance that day when they come before us. I'm going to go down the table. Mr. Adams.
To the chair, I just wanted to comment on my thoughts on your question about the tension.
Yes.
On the commission. I believe in being transparent and not sugarcoating things, because we have to be honest in order so that we can improve. So I think that, I'm speaking for myself, but I think it applies to other commissioners. I don't think we fully understood what we were going to be tasked with fully. I think this work has been much heavier and intense than I know I anticipated.
Okay.
I knew that I would have to commit time, and I'm still committed to this commission and the goals of it.
Yes.
But it's sucked up a lot more of my time. I feel like my life I'm a teacher, so I teach, and then it would be so many days where I would come home just to do commission work. in the evenings, and then sometimes on the weekends. So I would say that first. But in terms of internally on the commission, I think that we did not have time to get to know one another before we were sworn in. So we were selected. We never met as a full group before we were announced by the mayor. And then we were sworn in. And then we realized that any gathering of all commissioners together would have to be public because of the sunshine laws.
Yes.
So we never really had an opportunity to just know each other as people. That made working together challenging because we simply didn't know each other, and that made it difficult for us, I think, to build trust with one another. And the reality is there was an unwillingness because of the lack of trust for some commissioners to compromise and trust other commissioners. So that was a challenge. We also didn't really get an opportunity to establish a shared vision for the commission with one another. We literally got sworn in December. We met for the first time in January. We got trained for 6 months.
That was swearing in, what date was that?
I know I was sworn in on December 5th.
I was at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Of
2022.
2022,
And we
okay.
met for the first time in January 25th of 2023.
Okay, I'm trying to set, so we're basically, you're going into your third year now.
Our second year.
Second year, excuse me.
Because we were sworn at the end of 2022. So we literally got sworn in January. Then we had 6 months of training.
Yes,
Then in June, the police committees opened up.
yes.
And then we just started working on police work from that point. And so we just never really had time to do any team building. So I still support something where we can do team building because I think we still need it. But what I will say is that as the chair of the Budget and Grants Committee, that experience is challenging as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But there were 8 of us that worked together. There's 13 commissioners. There were 8 of us. Every commissioner that's here worked on the budget and grants along with 4 other commissioners. And it gave me a glimmer of hope that it is possible for us to get our commissions together. We did not agree on a lot of things. We, as we were doing the work, like this commissioner really was pushing for this grant and this commissioner was really pushing for this grant, but we had to come up with a package that we could agree on. And we were able to do that. So I think that demonstrated that we do have the ability to work together.
Okay.
But we, it's not perfect, but I think that in year 2, we would like to build on that experience with the budget and grants, because if we can bring 8 commissioners together, we can bring all of us together. So I know that it's been kind of doom and gloom, but throughout this year, we have accomplished some things. We have a great relationship with the police training committee, with Commander Magooth. We had an amazing event with them on December 16th, on a Saturday. The police actually gave up their time to come in and do their use of force training in front of the community. The community was able to give them immediate feedback. There was great discussion, and we're going to build on that. We're planning another one of those events in April on the west side. So I think that, this type of work would be easier done if we actually knew each other. I know that the commissioners that I've developed better relationships with, you just know each other. I mean, you guys work on city council, and if you know somebody, you kind of can read between the lines sometimes about like what they mean. You kind of know them, you know their character, their personality. I just think we didn't do that, and so while we were trying to get trained and do this work, I think we were also trying to get to know each other, and it just made it difficult. But I do believe that this year is going to be challenging in its own ways, but I think it's going to get better.
Well, just let me respond to that. When I came into city council, there were 33 members. And I only knew one of them when I came in. Then we went to 21, and so now today is 17. We'll be going to 15. in 2024. Excuse me, 2025. But it's like with anything. All 17 of us, I can tell you, as a senior member, every one of us is different. I can tell you that without any fear of contradiction. The 33 were different. The 17 are different. We come from different neighborhoods, we're different nationalities, different religions, you name it. But the term I've always used, the glue that holds us together, or that needs to hold us together, is basic respect for one another. And you can, and I always maintain this as well, you can disagree, but still be agreeable. You don't need to become mortal enemies. You don't need to have this an adversarial relationship. And so, you know, everybody is different. So I'm hoping, because what concerns me when you've said 8, so that means there's 5 out there that, are they not willing to cooperate? Are they, and so, you know.
Just to the chair, just to clarify, we, you know, there were some issues. The reason why there were 8 is because there were some concerns about, we have to vote on the grants.
Yes.
And so there was like conflict of interest days. And so we wanted to make sure, because we were in a situation where the more commissioners that worked on the grants, it increased the chance that we would have to disqualify organizations within the city due to conflicts with those commissioners. And so we were trying to minimize the number of conflicts that we had with organizations, so that more organizations would be eligible for the grants.
So let's go to Mr. Van Leer, then we'll go to the acting director.
So I don't have I think it's been covered pretty well in terms of the internal dynamics. I agree with a lot of what's been said. I would just say to the chair, to the committee, that I also have.
Pull that mic closer to you. So yeah, there we go.
I'm also cautiously optimistic. I think we have, you know, early on there were some divisions. For example, some votes that were 7-6, right? That seemed to be a divided commission. And more recently, that those barriers are broken down. There's a lot more conversation. As Commissioner Adams mentioned, you know, there's been some work across, you know, a lot of different folks getting involved. A recent vote we had around, which I can speak to later, around the general police orders that we, in terms of our asserting the commission authority on that issue, that was approved by 9 of the 11 members who were present at the meeting. So I think we're moving in the right direction. It's not that it's going to be easy. We continue to have some internal conflicts, but I think there's more and more recognition that, you know, we need to figure out better ways to work together. And we'll be having, I think this new year presents, you know, new opportunities for that. So that's about all I have to say for now.
Mr. Goodrick.
To council, thank you for having us back again. I'll start with that. It's a pleasure to be back before you again. As some of you are aware, I have a much longer view about this. So I think only Councilperson Jones and Councilperson Polensek were here when I started at the time working with the CPC. So let's put it in a little bit of perspective, this idea of conflict and that this group is any different than any other in conflict. I strongly disagree with that statement. They had some unique challenges to themselves, but civilian oversight in police is 40 years old, 50 years old in some cities, right? And if you look at the history of that, everywhere when it first started was just very conflict-ridden with some of the same problems. It's a hard hill to climb, and I think what's missing here is a unified vision for this city in general of what this means, right? So this has been enacted since 2021, and we have a lot of different opinions and perspectives of how the right way to do it is. And we need to have more conversations holistically about, you know, where does this commission fit into permanent city charter operations and things of that nature, right? So that's the first step, is we got to look at it from that umbrella perspective. There are still people fighting the idea that this commission should even be here, but it's in our charter now, so we need to be more accepting of it and work as a city collectively to move it forward. Now, when the commission first got here in 2015, it went through similar problems. At that time, it was only an advisory board, right? But after 3 years, around 2018, they had a consultant come in, right? So we've learned some lessons about that. And what this commission didn't have to its advantage was, when you come into council, you have senior members who can mentor you. The rules are already established. There are things that you have to your benefit, right? This commission to Commissioner Adams' point, was thrown together and told to get to work. And we did our best to set up a solid orientation program for them and other things. But one of the things that could have happened differently was reaching back to the old commission by the administration and others to talk to the staff, to talk to the people who had been in this work for a while on how to get this thing done right. But that just didn't happen, despite us attempting to do that. So it put them in a difficult position. And then you bring it down to co-chairs, right? These co-chairs had a hard run because it's their first year, right? So they really had the brunt of the work with trying to set the stage for things. Now, my grad school was in consulting, right? But I choose to come into government instead, so business consulting. If I was in my other life and chose that path, I would be coming in to help organizations get better. And what I see here is that they establish rules, but they need to do a little bit better job of following their own rules. So we write down what we say we're going to do, right? And then we should follow what we said we're going to do. So some of the conflict comes from simple things, roles and rules, right? But it looks like in the news and everything else that it's these big disputes. And most commissioners show up to work and work hard now, right? But there are a few who are still having trouble adopting to the norm of let's just work, and they're still focusing on reliving things that happened in the beginning of this time period that were traumatizing to them and failing to move forward as an organization, failing to grow, right? But I think the majority of people here are really showing up now with the intent to have a better year in 2024 and move past some of that growing pains, and that's really what it is. I don't see anything here that's so dramatic that says this is a complete failure, right? It's just the way we set it up wasn't the best, and we're just not unified in what our vision for this thing is as a city. So it's causing some conflict that trickles down into the commission, and you see that debate happen at the table. You know, our selection process, we're coming up this year again. I would encourage council and the mayor's office to look at the selection process and say, you know, how can we do it a little bit better? You know, did we pick necessarily the best candidates, you know, looking at overall what we've seen this year? So it's a collective effort that we could all make to see it grow. And I think that's why we are here today, is to talk about specifically our relationship with council. You know, how can it be better? How can we work with council, you know, across things like the grants and understanding 115.5 and the roles and responsibilities, and build a better 2024, not just put it all on the commission, but say, you know, how could every level of government help support what the charter says? Because at the end of the day, this is the Community Police Commission. This is about the community, right? The voters put them here, and I feel it's all of our duties, whether we're civil servants or elected officials, to make sure that the citizens get the outcome that they asked for here, right? So when we have these conflicts, we really need to go back to the core of the issue is, are we following 115.5 the way we're supposed to? Are we following our rules that we've adopted around it, right? Are we enacting the budget the way that we're supposed to in these instances? All of those things are worthy questions that will help reduce some of the conflict. Because it hasn't just been these commissioners. It has been other outside forces putting pressure on this commission, right? Sometimes to do things that they're not supposed to be doing. You know, sometimes there's interference that, in my mind, is inappropriate, right, in them growing and developing the way they should, because people are trying to impose their perception of how this commission is supposed to work and not respect their independence and their ability to grow. So there have been a lot of outside forces helping them to continue that conflict moving in a direction of their own agenda as well. So I wouldn't put it all on these commissioners. I think these commissioners are moving in a great direction. They're learning a lot, and they're focusing on the work, and they're getting into the work now. So this year you should see a lot of that core 115.5 work and core consent decree work.
Thank you. And, you know, as I've said publicly from day one, and I'll continue to say it, the council collectively, we're here to work with people. That's been our message and our goal. We're here to work with people. But my question, I'm going to be very, very direct and very blunt. These outside sources or people who are trying to disrupt, how can they be isolated?
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Mr. Chairman?
How can they be isolated? These outside...
Isolated?
Isolated.
Oh, I thought you said iced.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilman. Isolated, okay, where they are not having an adverse effect upon the members who are trying to render or do the right thing. Now, I know your meetings are governed, and I understand that your meetings, you do have public comment, correct?
Yes.
So, how do you better, since you're still in this learning curve, how do you better isolate those disruptions, those people who are trying to put forth a private agenda, because that's what I've heard. There are people that are trying to put forth a private agenda who are not on the board and pressure or intimidate board members. How do we better go about isolating that? And then getting specific to the point, you indicated, how many of the board members are up, the commission members are up?
To the chairperson, for this first selection period, there's a 4-year and a 2-year term that
Yes.
was selected randomly. After that, everyone's on a 4-year term. So right now, we have, I believe, 6 people coming up this year that will need to be, will have to enter in a selection process for.
We'll go back before the mayor and city council.
Correct.
Okay. Of the 6, how many of those were appointed by council?
That I don't know for certain.
Mr. Chairman.
One?
One?
One.
Oh, and that was.
And who is that individual?
Commissioner Benito. The other 2 city council appointments are myself and Commissioner Co-Chair Rodriguez.
Yes, okay. So, and they'll be, and
So it's 3 altogether,
Yeah.
correct?
3.
Yeah, so that will be coming for the mayor, and then obviously, the one would come for us between, at city council. Just educate me. What is the removal process? If someone is disruptive, if someone is, their agenda is completely different than the intention of Charter Section 115, what is the removal process? Can someone answer that to us? Madam Chairperson?
Yes, to the chair and the members. Let me have you clarify. Are you talking about the removal process from the public comment?
No,
or
the
removal
commission.
process from within the commission?
The commission itself.
Okay.
If there's someone who is just disruptive and unwilling to cooperate and be a part of the team in getting this focused and on track, then what is the removal process?
So the chair, would you like me to read the?
Yes, read
From
the
it, the
section.
charter?
And then
Yeah.
I'll
Go
because
ahead, read it.
It is in the charter, right?
Okay,
So
go
there
ahead.
is only one power that can remove,
that's
and that is the mayor.
Okay.
So what it says is the mayor may remove any commission member, and it has to be for reason, right?
Yes.
Malfeasance, misfeasance, nonfeasance, or gross neglect of duty, but must afford any non-police association representative commission member an opportunity for a public hearing before the mayor within 30 days after the mayor has given such member written charges with a copy filed with the clerk of council. So that's for a civilian member, and then there's also a provision for members who are associated with the police associations. It's a little bit different
Yes,
for them,
okay.
but we only have one of those members at
Okay.
present.
So
Okay.
to the chair, let
Yes,
me just
ma'am.
add one comment. That's, I mean, we got to get it to the mayor. See, the mayor has the final word.
The legal
And
authority.
then back to you all.
Yes.
But we got to get it to the mayor.
Right.
And I think this commission has been reluctant in some ways to address that because we weren't sure how you get it to that point. And I think tonight there should be a motion coming before the commission to remove a commissioner.
Okay.
Now, we'll see how that plays out.
Yes.
But if that motion should pass, then that motion can move forward to the mayor,
Yes.
you know, for a decision.
Okay. So just let me touch on just a couple of, then I'm opening up for questions of my colleagues. As it pertains to your budget, number of employees, how are you doing on number of employees?
Yeah, so let's, I'll skip forward, that was in here
Okay,
today, because I
hold on.
anticipated that question. So this is our 2024 budgeted staffing complement, okay? So starting with the executive director and assistant director, those are chartered positions.
We don't have that on our computers, do we?
Yeah. we
Oh, you do?
We
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
those
go
are,
ahead.
those first two are chartered positions. The assistant director is currently vacant. It's an administrative manager position, and that's where I was pulled up from as an administrative manager to serve interim. So we currently have 2 vacancies, the assistant director and the marketing and communications specialist.
Okay.
And why are those relevant? So what is going on with staffing? Last year, we came before you and we talked about equity in our office and,
Yes.
and making staff have the correct salary that's with the rest of the city. And this was something that unfortunately Commissioner Early couldn't make it. This is something very important to him and he wanted to talk about, so I'll try to do the best that I can here. What happens is we just lost a very good employee who's been with us for 4 years, okay? You guys had approved a budget that included, when we presented it to you, adjusting her salary to be with up to specifically, she's a project coordinator. There's 2 other project coordinators in the office. One's a male, 2 are females. The male is the highest paid project coordinator at 71. They're all the same civil service thing. The other 2 are at 49. Now, this was not our doing. This happened in the previous administration. So I wrote a memo to try and get an equity adjustment for this person and bring her up to par. You guys had approved that money to do so, but somewhere at the city side in the executive branch, they denied that request. Through 2 different HR directors. I don't know who exactly denied it. I asked the question. I was never provided that answer. So we don't know exactly what happened on that side of the house. But their reasoning was that they have a cap of 15% pay increase. So moving someone from 49 to 70,000 was inappropriate. When I asked for that policy, they did not provide it.
Okay.
So this resulted. Let me get to the.
No, can I put a, can I just want to just, on this point, just to add to the chair and to the committee, this is a systematic problem all around the city of Cleveland. We have far too many rules that are in the air, nothing in writing, and people are making things up.
Thank
and
you.
I want that to be on the record.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so to the chair, so now where are we at, right? I lost a great employee who we've been complimented on our website and our communications many times. She was integral to that. Sarah Anderson was probably one of the best employees I've ever had in my entire time supervising, which is over 2 decades. And now I'm going to post a job, right, at the pay scale, 70,000, that it should have been anyway. And we're going to go through all this administrative time, energy, and effort and bring someone in and pay them exactly what I was trying to get Sarah to be paid at. So that makes no logistical sense to me why we had to go through this motion. And the assistant director, I tried to raise an employee up to that position knowing how important it was as interim, so it's an interim promotion. And they also denied that based on pay, citing the same thing. But I know that interim people get pay advances on that all the time beyond 15%. When you get promoted interim, it's typical to get paid. So those vacancies could have been filled, and now we're at a position where hopefully this year we won't run into those same problems. But I think it definitely shows that on that side of the house, although council gave us the money, we ran into some significant challenges with the executive branch on supporting this commission and keeping the staff we need to get the job done.
Because I want to make that clear to all my colleagues, we gave the commission, thank you very much, dear. We gave the commission, we followed exactly the provisions within the charter section 115. So the dollar amount that's in the budget is we adhere to what we were required to adhere to, and we did just that. So again, if there's any issue, it lies someplace else. I guess I'm being polite in that respect. Okay, Mr. Attorney, you're the new guy in the block. Introduce yourself, because some members have come in since you mentioned. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
Hello again, Martin Belat. I am the attorney that is going to be working with the CPC and split duties between the CPC and the law department. So my first day was on Monday with the law department, but today is my first day with the CPC crew, and I'm very, very excited. I, previous to this, was working in the city's Department of Community Development. If I look familiar, it's probably because I'm from Community Development. Working under Director Hernandez, and I was the compliance manager for the Department of Community Development. So we all know and love the HUD regulations that come through the Department of Community Development into the city, and my main job was to make sure that when we're administering programs, executing contracts, doing any sort of activities using federal funds, that we were dotting the I's and crossing the T's, because that's very, very important to keep the money coming through. So
I'm surprised you still have hair on your head.
it was a lot to know and it was a lot to follow, but I'm very thankful for my team of about 9 people that it took to make sure that we stayed in compliance. Now, did we follow everything as HUD believed we should? Not always,
Okay.
but we ended up on the right side of the fence by the end of it all. And I think we still continue to do so. But I'm excited to be here and to work with the CPC team. It's so exciting to see such a young and hungry vision for something that's so new and is so impactful for the city. And that's what really drove me to join this team, because it's some really, really amazing work with some amazing team members. So I'm excited.
So so I'm going to get that. So half of your salary will come out of the CPC budget, and then the other half is coming out of law?
I guess. I'm not really that into weeds.
You better check where your money's coming from.
I don't know.
To the chair, that is correct. So we had petitioned for a full-time attorney.
Yeah.
We did not have that in the budget for this year. So what we
No.
did was take some of our staffing money that was left and make an arrangement with law. Part of that being the reason is we know that there's a lot of legal work we don't know yet. So we can anticipate that maybe in a year we will come back and say that our attorney has so many hours that we would like to transition that to full-time in-house. We
Yes.
don't know yet, but we anticipate that this is a good starting point to learn from how
Okay.
much legal work we actually need to do. Now, if you allow me, there is something on here that isn't listed. And if you notice in all of these jobs, what we're missing here is someone related to our grants. And I know Commissioner John Adams, who ran that, is here to talk about that. I hope you'll give him a few moments to talk about our
Yeah.
challenges. You all had expressed significant concerns about keeping good administrative authority over these grants, being able to look at these grants, to see the effectiveness of these grants. So there is a capability gap that we have that we're hoping to address this year with you all by having that discussion and figuring out what the best steps are for the CPC. And Commissioner Adams would be happy to talk about that if you're ready
Yeah.
to discuss the grants.
So I'm to assume, because we don't have it yet, the 2024 budget that will be presented to us officially on February 1st, there will be a line item for a staff attorney. I'm assuming as such?
To the chair, it will include this same setup here, which shows us it's the shared position for this year. So we don't anticipate asking an expansion for that position yet in 2024.
Well, okay, I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
And-
we are set for 2024. The way
Okay.
you're looking at here right now
Okay.
is what will come from the mayor's office.
Okay.
Yes.
good.
Mr.
So,
Chairman.
yes, Mr. Jones. Just a point.
On the point of staff, so you have these positions that you need to have filled. Do you have all the funds you need already currently to do that, to fill them?
Mr. Goodrick?
To the chair, yes, with the exception of the assistant director, which is still disputed with the executive branch on if we can do that interim promotion. So the other position that just vacated, we are in the process of posting right now, so it'll leave one vacancy.
Did, just to follow up on Councilman Jones's point of privilege, did you, when we did the, because I'm trying to jog my brain here, when we did the transfer ordinance, did you return any funds?
To the chair, that's an interesting question. Yes, the benefit that that happened to the city administration is that money came back because we were unable to fill these positions and
Okay.
unable to do those promotions.
Okay.
So you will see money come back, and the majority of that money came from our staffing dollars because we were unable to effectuate our staffing plan for so many months.
Yeah, well, from that perspective, you're looked upon as every other department or division who did not have filled positions, which were substantial in this city, and those monies were transferred when we call the transfer ordinance at the end of the year. So, Mr. Adams, because this is a good
On the
segue.
point,
Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Jones.
I just want to make sure I get my head kind of wrapped around this on the staff and vacancies.
Okay.
Why were you unable to fill those vacant spots?
Briefly?
To the chair, the simple answer is refusal on the other side of the House to accommodate us in the way we were budgeted to do so.
Okay.
So, and further, when asked to negotiate, they just sent back a no, and then a stone wall. So there was not
Okay.
even the ability for me as the executive to come over and have that conversation to figure out how we get to the root of the problem and move forward.
So-
At some point, we were just shut
Okay.
down in that
Okay.
communication, and without having the ability of the side who can effectuate that meet with you, it really is a dead end at that point.
So when you refer to the other side of the house, you're referring to the administration?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Adams, the grants, and this is a good segue into what, and then we're going to open up for full questions. The grants, and again, I'm always for transparency in these committees. So I will tell you that I've already had some people contact me and say, well, why did this group get funded? And why didn't I get funded? And my message, I've already experienced the sniping, and my response to them, that's the citizens, that's the Community Police Commission's decision. Council had no input into who was awarded the grants and what the purpose of the grants were awarded for. So I would hope in your response to us that I need to know who's going to monitor the grants.
Right.
Who's going to figure out, are these groups doing what they need to do? What neighborhoods they're working in?
Right.
Because again, I told you, I'm already getting the snipe in, which is nothing new because I've already gotten it with the $10 million we awarded to the Cleveland Foundation. The backstabbing and again, how come I didn't get this much or how come that group got this much, et cetera, et cetera. But I think all of us in council have experienced this, this ongoing, I don't want to say tension or whatever you want to call it, competition, quote-unquote, groups that are in our neighborhoods, which many of them, I can't figure out what they do, okay? I'm going to be very blunt about that, okay? I can't figure out, and I've said that publicly to the Cleveland Foundation, to make sure that whoever we're funding, that we're going to see some, substance.
Right.
We're going to see something meaningful coming out of it. So there's your segue.
To the chair, to answer your question about, who we chose and how
Yeah.
we chose them, the first thing I will say is that we had over $4.5 million requested. We had $1.089 million to award to the community.
Okay.
So from the beginning, we knew that we were going to disappoint some people. We just simply did not have enough money for
Yes.
everything that was requested. So that would be initially, that would be my first point. Secondly, we tried to do this as objectively as possible. So we created a system. We created an application. We set a minimum requirement of scores on applications, and every organization that applied that met that score, we interviewed them.
Okay.
So we ended up interviewing, I believe, almost 60 organizations, right? They got 15-minute interviews that were recorded. We scored them then off of their interviews. And once we scored them off of their interviews, the application was 40% of their score. The interview was 60% of their score.
Okay.
So we scored them. Then Commissioner Rodriguez took the lead on creating what we called a matrix. And so that included the organization, their score, what part of the city they were in, whether they were working on restorative justice, mediation, or violence prevention programs, the type of program, the demographic they were serving, and additional factors. Because once we got the scores, what we didn't want was to say, hey, we're just going to pick the top scores. We felt like one of our duties was to make sure that the funds that we were awarding to community organizations, that they were going to be spread throughout the city, and that we didn't want to fund the same type of programs for everything. And we wanted to ensure that we were meeting what the charter said regarding restorative justice, mediation, and violence prevention programs.
Yes.
So we, with Commissioner Rodriguez's lead, what we attempted to do was to make sure that we were addressing as many communities with needs as we could throughout the city. And so I just want to address one thing, because I watched your last meeting. I wasn't able to attend, but there was a question about, well, how could $50,000 be all city? When it says all city, what that meant was that those programs would, I mean, they're all obviously have to be located in some ward of the city.
Yes.
But their programs are open to everybody in the city.
Okay.
So there were some programs that might only serve Mount Pleasant. There were programs that might only serve Collinwood. They would focus on those communities.
Yes.
But there were multiple programs that
Okay.
everyone from all parts of the city could participate. So that's how we selected. You know, like I said, we knew that we were going to disappoint some people, because when you have $1.089 million and you have 4.6 million requested, you know, you can't do that. So I will, you know, want to say that, you know, the CPC, our budget, half of our budget is grants. Literally.
Yeah.
So it's a heavy lift for us. Like I said, we awarded 26 organizations. They are currently in the process of completing their contracts. Some have completed, but one of the issues that we've run into is when you look at what the charter says about the grants, it says that we shall establish a grant process, a grant program to award in the 3 areas of restorative justice, mediation, and violence prevention. And so we have run into the challenge of what we don't want is to be an organization that is only going to give money to established organizations. We believe that grassroots organizations deserve the opportunity to create programs in their communities that can improve their communities, because people who live in their communities know the issues facing their communities better than people who are outside of their communities.
Right.
However, what we've seen in this next phase, because right now, you know, the charter gives the authority to oversee the grants to the executive director. So once we vote on the grants as a commission, the charter says, you know, we don't continue to monitor these grants, that kind of goes to the executive director kind of to see them through the contract process. But what we've run into is that grassroots organizations, so for example, if your organization is working with children, you need insurance. That insurance has to be paid for. If I'm a grassroots organization, do I necessarily have the funds to start up the funds for that insurance? Grassroots organizations don't have tens of thousands of dollars sitting around to pay for insurance. They don't have tens of thousands of dollars sitting around to be on a reimbursement program. So what has happened is we were not aware of that essentially the city was going to require them to be in a reimbursement. And so now what we're running into, which is slowing down the process again and frustrating the people that we selected, is that now we have to do a hardship. So then it's like slowing everything down.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's been a lot of challenges that we have had, but we are dedicated to making sure that grassroots organizations have an opportunity. This is the Community Police Commission. And so we must serve the community. So there's, you know, as far as monitoring goes, the challenge that we're having, and we are thinking about that, you know, we need some additional support. I was really happy to hear the conversation that you all had at that last meeting about monitoring the grants, because we have the same concern.
Yes.
It's not just about, you know, there needs to be accountability because these are public funds and city funds. However, these organizations need support.
Yeah.
They need support. The reality of the commission is that we are all full-time employees. I'm a teacher. How can I go monitor a grant?
Yeah.
How can I go and check and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Let me see, let me go to the program.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I think that when it comes to the monitoring, we share your concern.
Yeah.
But we also want to make sure this is not about just holding grassroots organizations accountable. It's about supporting them. They need the support. And so to answer your question, frankly, we are still figuring out how we monitor these grants.
Okay.
We believe we need additional support. We need someone whose job it is to monitor the grants and to give these organizations the support that we already know they need.
Okay.
So we are in a position where we have requested a grants manager position for our 2024 budget that was completely rejected by the city. So after watching your meeting, where you expressed the same concerns that we expressed as a commission and our Budget and Grants Committee, it wasn't even considered. So we're walking into 2024
Okay.
thinking that we can do what we did, giving up weekends, giving up our evenings
Yes.
for months, and somehow still manage it. We are in a position now where this year for grants is crucial and it's unique. Last year, we did not have any grantees. This year, we will have 26 grantees, and by April, our goal is by April, that we are launching year 2 grants program. So we're in a position where full-time employees will possibly have to manage as many as 50 grants. How can we do it without a staff person to do that?
So right now, it's going to be, you've awarded 26 at this
Yes.
point, awarded. Okay. Now, okay, I think part of the challenge here is that the initiators, the framers of 24 never understood the legal implications and ramifications of awarding city money. All of us around this table can tell you this is the ongoing challenge we have, especially with our CDCs, that you got to spend the money first and then get reimbursed.
Right.
And some groups have actually had to go out and borrow money from banks, short-term line of credits, at times to even function and operate, which is not a way to do business. And and so it's collectively the whole issue with the monitoring the grants, and I would concur, you need to have somebody within your operation who would monitor that, or do you sit down and come up with some type of partnership with community development who does have monitors of the money they're awarding to agencies and groups, to check to see if they're doing what they're supposed to do. Are the groups that are being awarded, the 26, are they all nonprofit?
They all must be nonprofits. If they are not not-for-profits, if they're grassroots organizations that are not a 501c3, then they must find a fiscal agent that is a 501c3.
Because I think that's important. Because if you really want a cloud to be cast over the commission, is have some group you awarded funds to for the funds to disappear or to be improperly used. Because that's only going to add to the perception that something is not right. And so I'm glad to hear what you're saying, Mr. Adams and others, that there has to be better accountability, a better process, because all of us around the table, if there's a group working my ward, I've said this to Cleveland Foundation as well, if there's a group working my neighborhood or my colleague, I think we should know. I mean, because I had people come to the table when we had the discussion here, and I forget what date that was last year, when we had all these groups come in, and the room was full of them. There was 28 groups, I think, in attendance, and 2 of them said that they're working in Ward 8. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. I didn't know who the heck they were. And I heard some comments from my other colleagues saying the same thing. Wait a minute, who are these people that are saying they're working in our neighborhood? So we're on, from that perspective, we're on the same page. We want to see accountability. We want to see somebody monitoring the groups to make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Yes, Mr. Goodrich.
Can I just add the administrative perspective of this? So we did our best to set up a grants program, right, with the tools that we had available to us already, right? We didn't have the time or the budget to procure anything.
Yes.
So we did an email system. We used our website the best we can. And some of our failure points were through that system. It wasn't designed to do it this way, right?
Yes.
So this year we also researched. So what Mr. Adams is saying is, as you're aware, the commission can petition council separately for funding outside the mayor's budget that comes over, right?
Yes.
This commission voted to approve the book you'll be getting, but they also asked to add an additional $150,000. And what that covers is a grant administrator position and then software to track, manage, track the money, do the updates, right? So we don't know how to send that to you formally, so that's one of the things that hopefully we'll get out of this is how do we send that request to you so that at budget time you can consider that request, because it is a unique request to us. And here's the other thing you get out of that. When we were thinking about this grants position and debating it internally, we're like, why just make it monitor, right? They can also seek grants for the CPC. And in a world where funding is tight, I think that this position will pay for itself in the long run in finding outside funding that eases the burden to use city tax dollars to help get that commission the extra money. And we won't be caught in this cycle of coming to ask for things that are below. You guys like to use that minimum allotment, right? If we were able to seek grant funding, and I had someone in my office who can do that all the time, so not only can they manage grants, they could seek more funding to ease the burden on taxpayer dollars from you all having to distribute that to us year after year as we grow. So our workload is so high, to your point about the framers, I think that they did overlook the fact that when they set up the minimum staffing for the CPC and the minimum budget, they didn't consider the workload that comes with managing this grant. So if you think about our request, which we will make to you, however it's done, of $150,000 to make this more successful, more accountable, more efficient, right? What you get out of that is also it's a small administrative cost. If we're doing $1.1 million a year or more, it's only a 10% administration cost to do that or less, right? So with the initial buying of the software and then this position, which will be about probably $120,000 when you add all the fringe into it, 70 base pay plus whatever our fringe benefit rate is. You get a lot out of it. And 10% is about the norm to administer these grant programs for other organizations. Anybody doing this amount of grant distribution would have someone fully dedicated to this with expertise to run it so that it is trackable, manageable, all of those things. So.
Okay. So as you know, if you were here for the prior discussion, we had our grants administrator at the table for public safety, Dawn, who does a very good job pursuing outside funding sources. So I would concur with you that you need to have that ability to do that. I would suggest to you to direct correspondence to the council president because we're going to be we're going to start the budget. We're going to receive the budget from the administration, the mayor's letter of transmittal. By law, must be here on February 1st, and so then we're gonna do a lot of deep diving because we've had a lot of requests. We've had requests to council members as it pertains to various departments and divisions. We've had staff suggestions. We have our staffer here who will take down this suggestion as well. So, Ms. Ubakun. So we'll take that into consideration. We'll take that into consideration. Now, again, we have a lot on our plate. I'm going to be the first to tell you, we got a lot on our plate, members of City Council, as going into this budget, because there's a lot of things, especially with regard to the service delivery, that we would like to see improved upon. So, but I appreciate the thought, the suggestions, the comments. And I guess it goes back to my original statement here. We're here to help. We're here to listen. Whether you're for or against, it's law. And so, how do we make this work? How do we make it work where citizens can see the benefits of it? And where police officers, and let's be very blunt, where police officers don't look upon this, as far too many of them do, as a reason why they don't want to stay in the department or why they won't come onto the department. Because the council president and I met with the folks that are working heavily in the recruitment process, and we had a long, lengthy discussion. And they brought up the issue with 24, that was when they were interviewing people, that potential police officers were bringing up the issue of 24, Charter Section 115, and when they did the exit interviews, that was a reason why a lot of officers who were leaving pointed to. And again, as we've heard today, You have yet even to render a decision against one officer. So again, there's a lot of misinterpretations. There's some, I think, maybe bad perceptions that are out there. And how do we all work together to make this work for the best interests of our city? And our men and women in blue who are out there doing a very difficult job, a more difficult job than ever before. So that's where I'm stopping right there. I want to open it up for questions. Vice Chair, and I know there are other meetings that people have to get to, so I would ask that people not take the 15 minutes. I'm going to give everybody 10 minutes in this opening round, please. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take the 10 minutes and then come back on the back end for the following 10 minutes. I think that this is important, I was one of the council members, the only council member, to support the issue on the ballot. I went out and campaigned, had the initiative at our meetings, and we were very supportive. And I do have, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the administrative side of things, and I'm disappointed in terms of the members. I've had a conversation with some of you all privately, and I've also had conversations in general in the selection process of the members. Many of you may recall some of those conversations. One of them was important in terms of working together. We cannot accomplish what we want to accomplish if we're not working together. Your board is diverse, and you should be able, and you have the capacity to be a great board of people working together. I don't know what happened, but I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because I shared with you that all eyes of the nation would be looking at you. I'm disappointed with the administration because I made suggestions and it fell on deaf ears, and something as simple as scheduling couldn't get done properly. I am looking at the commission because I understand the importance of having a commission to oversee and providing input to police policy, for engaging the public to have input in on policy. I haven't seen any of that. You were finally got it right to get to the neighborhood, my community. We had a full house. And your behavior was so unprofessional that my citizens were like, they need to be disbanded. If we knew this is how they would be acting, we would not have voted for it. That hurt. And that was that night. So we had a number of professionals who were there, and I had an earful. In terms of policy and development, the commission's policy and development for police procedures and practices, have we did anything in that avenue as a board? And because of time, I just want to, and if I have to go back to repeat, I will. I want to know what policy, procedures, and processes that you have recommended within the years, findings of and what that looks like. Because I heard some things and I don't want to overreach, and that's the reason why I have not overreached. I believe that each board and each body has to coalesce together and hopefully organically do something, but I'm disappointed in the fact that on the administrative side, because what made Mike Polensek be able to function as a young council person coming in with 33 council members and then 21 council members and then down to 17, and now we're looking at 15. We had a good staffing system. Now, I believe that the commission should have all of what it needs to be fully staffed. I fought on that issue when I first got in on council in 2018, and wanting to make sure that then the commission had the wherewithal to do mailers. I found it sad that the administration at the time didn't empower the commission. So I hope that the commission will get the necessary resources to be able to put your person that will hold accountable. You're giving out funds as well as being able to hire people in. You won't be able to do anything and be a commission that's really free and independent unless you have the capacity in place. So I'd like to know about your policy development, and if our team can do it, write it down so that we can send it over and get a copy of that. That's important. Accountability and transparency. It's my understanding that you're supposed to monitor and evaluate the performance of the police department, ensuring that officers are held accountable to their actions and that the department operates in a transparent manner. Would like to know what we have done on this, if anything. So is anyone open to talk about that one?
Okay, who can ever respond to that or chooses to?
To the chair,
Yes.
Pete Van Leer can answer the policy question, and then if you just give me a minute.
Well, I don't
Okay.
want to go to the policy question. If you could provide that in writing for me.
Okay.
Okay.
And then in terms of the accountability and transparency to evaluate,
So our committee.
Through the chair.
Through the chair, we have an accountability committee. It is one of the busiest committees that we have. So if you notice at 115.5, they are charged with setting up what's called a Brady Giglio list publicly. It's a very challenging
The
thing.
who?
A Brady Giglio list.
Okay.
That has to do with officer integrity that would make you impeachable as a witness in court. We are the first civilian organization to be charged with developing a list. Normally, it's a prosecutor's office that does that. So we are working with attorneys and other subject matter experts for how to do that. One of the first things we did was make public on our website all of the letters that have been sent by the prosecutor's office for officers who have integrity-based issues so that someone can go there and see that. Never been made public before in this town, except for the media, has done so from time to time. Now it's on the website. So if an officer has an integrity issue that the courts have identified where they are a witness, impeachable as a witness, it's on our website. So that's one of the things we did to follow the law. They also have made several records requests and to ask for disciplinary files to further expand our ability to hold the division accountable. This didn't come up yet, but we do have an issue with records flowing. I think Chairman Polensek, you had mentioned in the past that records need to flow, things we need to ask for, it's under the law. Well, they aren't. We have 3 important requests that are over 180 days since we asked the city administration for those, and we're empowered to get those records. The consent decree said we should have had some of them in 21 days, and they didn't even hold that in regard, that order from the judge to give it to us. So we are working on accountability. We are busy in that area, and we're making strides forward.
Thank you.
Now, the
It would be
questions-
helpful if council would continue to say, they should get the records that they need to get, because that is an important issue for us to do
Well-
our job, is access to records.
Well, just specific on that point, and I want to just put on this pause because I don't want to take away the
Yeah,
councilman's
pause
time.
me. Give me a lot of time.
Yeah, I'm not, you're getting your 10. That's what you're getting. The fact of the matter is that why are we under a consent decree? Because people who had legitimate complaints against the police department, those complaints were not heard. Let's just be blunt about it. And I was aware of one that took 6 years. Now, see that, everyone knows I'm pro-law enforcement, I'm pro-police. But when a citizen makes a complaint, and I understand this was a legitimate complaint out of a West Side family, 6 years to have it heard? Come on now, really?
You stealing my thunder now.
No, but what I'm saying is, there's no excuse that an investigation should take that long. I don't even believe it should take a year. So that's where we're at. And so, Councilman, please continue.
Mr.
That's your
Chairman,
time.
you really broke it in real good there. So because that's a really important issue, and this is one of the reasons why I supported the commission as relates to complaints from citizens. How many complaints have you received, and how many complaints have you processed? Yes.
We've received 1 to date, and we are in the process of beginning to look at that appeal now. That's part of our reason for meeting day before yesterday with OPS and the Civilian Police Review Board, because we need case files from them.
Right.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman, how does that process works where you would receive civilian complaints? Do you receive it from those bodies? They give that information to you? How does that work?
Sure, to the chair, through the chair, to the councilperson. So a citizen can come to us directly if they feel like they filed a complaint that didn't get adjudicated correctly through the OPS side. Or they can also tell us about an incident that they're aware of on the administrative side of the police house. And the commission itself can start its own investigation if it finds information that warrants a complaint being followed up on. So our rules clearly say there are several ways that we can start the process of reviewing a disciplinary outcome, because that's what we're talking about. When she says we receive one complaint, as you all know, we are the final authority on discipline, so we can move discipline upward and downward under certain circumstances. And when we're talking about receiving complaints, we're talking about people who would like us to take a second look at that discipline and see if our power applies or if we choose to move the discipline up or down under certain circumstances.
Mr. Chairman, and certainly I would probably would like to some of this stuff, off, because it's in depth, right? It's one of the reasons why I supported having a commission. And in part was because of the simple fact that our police didn't have professional training. And I sat here at this table year in and year out and pounded the previous administration about how much money was being put into the police department to train our police officers. One of the things that some of the findings found in the decree was that a department that's well trained on a professional level does a great job for their citizens in their city and have the less issues with police use of force and have less complaints coming in from the citizens because they know how to do that. So my question would be, in the training and professional development,
Joe?
I know that the commission plays a role in shaping the training and professional development of programs for police officers, ensuring that they're up to date and comprehensive and focused on community-oriented policing. What kind of policies, if any, that you have put in place to make sure that our men and women are really prepared as they go out and face the day?
So to the councilman through the chair, I am the chair of the training committee. So we have been in existence since June of 2022. Up to 2023, I can't get the year straight. But we have been working closely with them. Currently, we have been reviewing their materials. So we, since June, have been piecemeal updating. So we are currently at a place where there's a 3-year training plan that we have worked with Commander Maguth, who's the head of the Police Training Review Committee. We've been working with them on that, and we've been providing feedback with them. That's been a good working relationship. And currently, we just completed a crowdsource management training. So currently, what we have to do is we have done several revisions with the police training committee on how they will manage crowds, because there were issues in 2020 with how the crowds were managed. And so where we are with that is that training has come to the training committee. We have given feedback on that training to the Police Training Review Committee, to Commander Maguth and Captain Simon. And now what has to happen is that has gone to the DOJ and the monitoring team. The DOJ and the monitoring team has given us feedback on the training that we sent to them as the CPC and the CDP. And where we are now is that training now, and what's going to happen today, it has to go to the full commission, because what the Department of Justice and the monitoring team are requesting is that that training, which will become the new crowd management training, it has to go to the full commission. So now what we need to do at this point is that training has to go to all of the commissioners, there's only 4 members of the training committee, so we can't have a situation where only 4 commissioners determine what the
Yes.
final training is going to
Okay.
be. So that's going to go to the full commission. We'll give the commissioners about a week to give their comments. We'll synthesize that information, send it back to Commander Berguth and the Training Review Committee, and then once he makes those changes, we'll give it one more look over, and then it will go to the Department of Justice. So we
Thank
are
you.
working on a
Thank
training
you.
with them as well.
Councilman, your time, we have 2 other members up yet. Okay, thank you. Councilman Slife?
And I will be within my time because I have to leave for at 12:30. So if we could, without sounding rude, just if we're able to kind of keep it brief on both sides, because I know I struggle with that as well. One, just a procedural question. I know that the commission the commission made a recommendation to the mayor for a permanent executive director. The mayor declined that recommendation. What is the next step? Is the next step to to make that recommendation again? Is there a process to go through to make a recommendation of an additional individual? What does that look like this year?
Whoever can answer that.
So at this point, we have an ad hoc committee that is seeking outside legal counsel, basically to review, and we're waiting for that contract to be completed, as well as for both sides to agree. Once we receive that, then that would allow us to know to pursue and further engage with implementing our interim executive director, or the next steps in either opening the hiring process.
Ms. Ridgway?
So to the chair and members, just to add to this, the mayor did not just reject that nomination. The mayor's response also was to go back to the motions that had come before the commission before and had been approved to open that hiring process up. That would be a transparent process that the community could see and know what we're doing.
Okay.
So it wasn't just that I'm rejecting this nomination, that's it. He directed what he wanted us to do with that. The interim director's term is up in that position in April. I think it's April 24th or 26th. I can't remember the exact date. I believe that there may be a motion coming to the table tonight to reopen that process, even though the law department has engaged an outside attorney to consider that mayor's rejection and whether that was legit under the statute. But as I understand, as of yesterday, that outside attorney is still negotiating that contract with legal.
Okay. Did you have something?
But there's a lawsuit, too. Isn't there a lawsuit pending?
Yes, there is a lawsuit pending, but we are not allowed to discuss it. I guess, hey.
Okay, fine.
Mr. Chairman, on the point.
Briefly, if you can, just
Yes.
leave it a few minutes.
On the point, who is suing who?
Listen,
No, they don't need to talk about the case. I just need to know who's pressing the lawsuit.
Listen
At
up,
that
listen
time,
up.
we cannot provide any
Chair.
specifics. When there are certain commissioners that are legally bound, but if there's anybody that would like to speak, please feel free.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Slife, you have the floor. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we can circle back on that, Joe, elsewhere. Thank you for that update. That's useful. Just back to the question that was asked by Chairman Polensek earlier about dismissing commission members. First question is and this is all, I'm trying to understand the process, is a vote by the commission necessary, and then that's taken to the mayor, or can the mayor dismiss individuals outright? Basically, do they serve at the pleasure just like any other
Wait a minute,
director?
Gentlemen at the table. Okay, Councilman Anson.
So I would say, because we're an independent body, I would not, I would hope that any elected official wouldn't just come and state that we're going to remove anyone. I think there needs to be conversations or anything, but as a commission, I think it's important that we govern ourselves. So if there's any concerns, I think that we should take the initiative.
To the councilman through the chair, according to the charter, the the mayor does have the power to simply remove a commissioner.
Okay.
But we also have the ability as a commission to initiate that process. So if we vote, if the commission wants to remove a commission, it requires the full commission to vote and then send a letter to the mayor. But the mayor does have the authority to simply remove a commissioner.
Okay.
And just to
Briefly.
add to
Ms.
that,
Ridgway.
to the chair and the members, the public can also, and they have actually written the mayor, asking for the removal of a commissioner. Now, the mayor did not respond to the commission directly on that, but the mayor responded to media saying that he had no intentions of removing a commissioner at that point.
Okay. And it's useful for me to know, because I will say one of my misgivings while this was on the ballot was, I know council, thank you for clarifying the 3 members that council appoints, but it seems that is it theoretically in the abstract correct that council can appoint 3 individuals and then a mayor could remove 3 individuals? Yeah.
But it's my understanding,
it up to the
again, to the chair and to the committee, it's my understanding that even if the mayor makes the decision to remove a commissioner, it still must go to council.
Right.
That's my understanding.
Of the 3.
So to the commissioner through the chair. So there's several things. In the charter, if, say for example, so the council appointed myself, Commissioner Rodriguez, and Commissioner Benito. If the mayor's, for a political reason, decided that he wanted to remove us, the process then has to kick back to council. And council, by a vote of 2/3, I believe it's 2/3, you can override the mayor's removal of commissioners. So there are levels of checks and balances in how to prevent the mayor from actually doing that.
And that is the case through the chair for you 2 and Ms. Benito, but not the other commissioners who are appointed directly by the mayor.
So to the councilman through the chair, it applies to all commissioners.
Okay.
And yeah, so it applies to.
Okay, thank you. Real quick, I guess suppose there's maybe an analogy of, it's not that even you're learning how to drive, you're learning how to drive manual, and like the first gear can be a little bumpy. So maybe if this year we're like getting into second gear, getting into third gear, what is the timeline for being kind of in 5th gear on the interstate, going full speed? And because I think a lot of the questions that we have is as it relates to the question about the GPOs and a lot of the more administrative tasks that are burdensome. It's a lot of work. The ability to be fully functioning, to be able to kind of do that level work, and what's that kind of the trajectory, and is there an implementation timeline of when we aspire to kind of be, to the analogy, in 5th gear on the interstate going 60?
To the chair and members, I compare it to all the experience I've had over the years as an administrator or a manager. The first year, we learn it. The second year, we began to put our own stamp on it. And the third year, we're ready to implement. I think it takes a good 3 years, and maybe even a little bit more time for an organization that is brand new, that has not existed at all. But that's just from my experience as a new administrator.
Okay.
Okay. And then, if only because, could touch base with me afterwards, just because I do have to leave. But I will say something that you learn when you come onto this body is like, when do you speak as the individual and when does the body speak? And I appreciate that is a kind of, there's a learning curve to that. I will just say, and this is my personal opinion, there are those, I guess, on Twitter, which isn't real, that almost suggests that, like, we get criticized for being on our phones, but I'm on my phone because Brian Casey's texting me like, hey, there's a pothole on Rocky River Drive.
right.
And Carrie McCormick's like, do you have time to meet about like, we're talking to each other. And there are, I think, people who suggest that we are not allowed to talk to each other. And we are certainly not allowed to be at a quorum and discuss city business, but the idea that we don't have water cooler moments and that we don't have meetings and we don't think about things together is, one, not true, and something I think that we aspire to do more, because that it does build those relationships. And I only bring this up because I recall a meeting a number of months ago where, and I don't know who it was, but someone had basically said, don't communicate with me outside of this meeting, and it is, I think, impractical and be cumbersome to the point of being impaired to suggest that people can't have one-on-one. So I want to just say that I understand that, but to the degree that there's criticism out there and a suggestion that every small micro conversation is analogous to a smoke-filled room. If there's a smoke-filled room, I haven't been invited, guys. that's not reality. That's not how things can function. So don't be afraid to push back against that. We all recognize transparency. We all respect Ohio's sunshine law, but not every conversation doesn't rise to the degree of having to put out public notice and receive public feedback that things can't function at that point. So.
Okay.
To the chair, just a really quick response. As a co-chair, I speak regularly to almost every commissioner. They have felt comfortable picking up the phone and calling me and expressing their opinions, asking mine. I always touch bases with my co-chair, but I have as many people from the public calling. You know, I can easily get over 300 email a day from between community and commissioners. So we are doing some of that, but not from the standpoint of a quorum, Ohio Sunshine Law.
Thank you. Okay. Councilwoman House Jones, please.
Good afternoon. Through the chair to the commission team that's here, thank you all so much. It's always engaging to listen to you all. I appreciate the transparency, you know, saying what people will say, the difficult, ugly stuff out loud. I mean, that's the only way democracy is supposed to be an ongoing growth part, and I think that's one of the challenges is that many people feel like, no, it's only gonna be this way. That's not democracy. Democracy is about being flexible and changing and learning and growing, and so with that point of view, through the chair, you talked about the time it will take to kind of get the commission flowing, and you like 3 years or what. That's kind of what you said, correct?
My experience.
From your experience. And so I would say, and for a point of context, and I think this is for all of us, we understand how we got here because there had been identified issues that have been confirmed from a federal government, the judge, with our police department, right? Our police department was created May 1st, 1866. How long was that? Anybody know? Anybody know? 158 years. 158 years. We got to the problem that created this. And to have an expectation that in 1 year, we gonna try to fix all the things that 158 years created, we gotta have some balance. We have to have a level of balance. So I'm really big on like calling things what they are, where. And I think when you talk about just natural forming, storming, norming, performing, those are for those who understand group dynamics. This is very normal, right? And I would say even just say for myself, it has been a challenge for me serving in Cleveland City Council. I can only talk about myself. Right? When you are bringing things up that you think are really valid and people don't listen to you. They shrug it off. So what do you have? Your voice? You might get Twitter fingers. You might do, so I understand it. I'm working on my own trying to establish relationships because I can be very clear. I am one of 17 and I can tell you 2 years in, I haven't even had the moment to actually sit down conversations with the entire 17. So I'm talking on myself, so I'm not going to hold somebody and be like, oh, y'all doing bad, when I know I ain't necessarily did it all myself. And I think if we could be quite honest, many of us from the points that we come from haven't done the work themselves. So I think people need to be very cautious when we throw out complaints, making sure that we check ourselves first, and making sure we're bringing our best foot forward. So I wanted to put that out. When it comes to the I want to confirm and hear what you're saying, specifically when it comes to like the membership and the dynamics. I think when it comes to the selection process for both the administration and this council, there has to be a level of owning responsibility for not setting people and entities up for success. That is one of the reasons why Councilwoman Gray and I have worked laboriously on the Cleveland Commission on Black Women and Girls. People have wondered why because of this. We have worked painstakingly to get to this point now where they're just getting to a point where they can have an orientation before they are swearing in so they can be set up for success. I think it is something that we in this place need to be more intentional in setting people up for success, because there are people intentionally, internally, and externally that do things to sabotage when you are trying to create change. That is a fact. It's a fact. And we need leadership to call things what they are and really don't just talk about it, but in very real ways, bring things to the table to make it better. For this HR situation, Mr. Chair, to this team here, I have heard you loud and clear. It is problematic. It is disgraceful. When we talk about an equity study, if you can put it out there on the table, knowing that people are being paid desperate amounts for doing the same work, and it's one thing to say, oh, we can't do it. No, you just won't do it. No one has brought to this table, oh, it's a problem with our ordinance, or it's a problem with this administrative rule. These are things that we need to work on. I have come into this body really trying to center equal pay for equal work, specifically when it comes for women. We know what is happening not only when you work through your work time, but how that impacts your retirement and everything else. This is the work and responsibility. And so I would say when you have instances like this, please let us know. That is unacceptable. It is problematic, and there is a commitment to find out. Now, they might not answer me, but there is a commitment that I am going to find out, because it is gross behavior. And we as a system need to stop it. Government is one of the reasons why we have this disparate pay between women and men in the workforce. And when someone brings it to our attention, we absolutely have an obligation to fix it. I ain't gonna even get into the paid parental leave stuff. This all goes into each other, right? Equal pay is a three-legged stool. It is talking about people being paid equally. It is having paid family leave, and it's about child care. And this is one of the three parts of that three-legged stool. And I hope whoever that, I believe her name was Sarah, it is unfortunate that she had to leave, but when the position is put back up, I hope she would consider applying, because she is worthy and deserving to be equitably paid. And it is shameful that this is how, if what you are saying is true, which I will figure it out, but if what you are saying is true, it is shameful. The final thing is on the grants. You talked about, I wanted to acknowledge hearing that needing a grants manager. I think this is something that this body should look at and support, because again, separately, being on the neighborhood safety fund, being a part of a selection group who selected individuals for the neighborhood safety fund, we had over $13 million in requests for this first round to give $1 million. It is not easy. You have selection groups and everybody want to be chosen. But I will also say a part of that. Many people want money, but a lot of people are not prepared. Their proposals are not up to par. They don't have the thought processes on how they are going to spend it. And, it's a lot of different things that go into it. And I would tell people, we also a lot of groups need to look at the diversification of funding. It cannot be one program that's going to be your all and be all. And so, of course, it would stop on my end. This is a mess, but yeah, it's a fire alarm. I promise you this is intentional.
So let me, wait a minute, listen up. They might.
Well, I ain't gonna be bad because I got to go, but love y'all much.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, we probably.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to adjourn.
Yeah.
Because by the time we come back, some members have had to leave. So wait a minute, I want to thank you for your attendance today. We look forward to working with you. Committee's adjourned. There's a fire alarm.